Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Scrivo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. Today is the 17th or the 18th? The 18th of January, and it is 2021, and it is the official federal holiday, Martin Luther King Day here. And so in honor of that, I thought we could take a look at his chart. Today I listened to his I Have a Dream speech. I listened to his the speech that he gave the night before he was assassinated, to the I've been to the mountain speech, and I got probably a third of the way through the Vietnam speech that he did in 1967, a year to the day previous to his assassination. So just to kind of get myself in the vibe of this great man. So let's take a look at his chart. And he was born on the 15th of January, 1929. I'm also going to be doing his numerology and showing you that as well, but I may have to do that in a separate video. I'll have to see how it goes. Okay, so we have a Taurus Ascendant, and so when you have a Taurus Ascendant, you look to the ruler of Taurus, which is Venus, and he has Venus up here in Pisces in the 11th house. Of course, Venus in Pisces is a love and compassion. This is a very sensitive and tender-hearted person. This is somebody who cares about others and has a deep connection to spirit. Of course, not everybody expresses a Venus in Pisces that way, but this is the way that he did. It was very evident. And it is in the 11th house, which is the house of groups. And so he would be, what was important to him, what was essential to him, would have been communicated within the group milieu, say. If we look at this through the perspective of evolutionary astrology, we can see that we look to Pluto first, and he was a Pluto in Cancer generation, born in 1929. So he has his Pluto in Cancer at 17 degrees 8 minutes in the third house. Now, Pluto in the third house is somebody who has a real deep love of knowledge and a really fine grasp of the written word. So this is somebody who could write a speech. We evolve through our polarity point. Pluto in Cancer is often connected to family and deep roots and community. And he was able to dig deep into the heart of that community and find the words to inspire. The polarity point of Pluto is how Pluto evolves. And in order to evolve, Pluto has to move in the opposite direction, in the direction of Capricorn. And so his soul, while having deep connected roots to family, his soul wanted to express itself in a leadership way, in a Capricorn way, in a way of sort of creating systems and or the foundation for people to rise, people to aspire, people to get further in life. Capricorn is an archetype that teaches us that if we take the necessary steps and we work hard, we can acquire, or we can not necessarily acquire as in things, but acquire knowledge, just acquire a better life, right? A better life. And that polarity point is in the ninth house, which is about inspiring people of their own innate ability to rule themselves, really. And so that was sort of the unconscious energy in his chart. The nodes of the moon are where we are conscious of our what it is that we are coming in to learn, what we know, and what we're coming in to learn. And so he has a south node here in Scorpio in the seventh house, his north node in Taurus in the first house. He really had to embody Taurus in the first house, his values. And his values are described by that Venus in Pisces. So he really had to sort of walk his walk. It was very, very important. His south node, Scorpio in the seventh house. When you have south node in the seventh house, you sometimes do things to keep the peace in relationships. There can be some enmeshment. There can be some betrayal in the house of marriage, and he was unfaithful to his wife. Probably one of his few faults that we know about anyway. But ultimately, he was to move from the direction of Scorpio, which can be somewhat of an emotional hell, into this sort of self-possessed, a self-sufficient, well, he would have, the way he looked would have been important. His dress, his manner, he was conscious of that stuff, because he's Venus ruled. His chart is Venus ruled, so he would be conscious of that. And so we can see in his persona, his ability to look, in a way, kind of traditional Taurus. His sun is at 2508 of Capricorn, and it makes a trine to his north node. His sun in Capricorn, it sort of harkens back to the energy of the polarity point of Pluto. In fact, let's see, this is 17 and this is 25. So he's about 8 degrees. So he has actually Pluto Sun opposition with an 8 degree, about an 8 degree orb here. He is always aware of his power and his powerlessness, I think, simultaneously, and learns to find a way to express his need for a sense of agency, and that extended to everybody else. It wasn't just about him, but his own sort of personal need to feel like he could succeed in life. He wanted to bring that to the masses, and of course, the masses are all about the 11th house and the Pisces, right? Especially Pisces, the energy of Pisces, mass consciousness. So he had his sun in the ninth house, and the ninth house, of course, is the house of religion and higher learning, higher mind. In his way, he had his own sort of metaphysical principles that he aspired to. He saw the commonality, I think, in the different religions. In fact, in his speech about Vietnam, he talked about what was going on and how horrible it was, and he got a lot of blowback from that. And it is possibly the thing that got him killed, because he suddenly became an anti-war person and a anti-poverty person. Of course, he was always those things, but those were the next things that he was dealing with. He was dealing with the war in Vietnam, and then he was dealing with the Poor People's Campaign to point out to who the real enemy was. And of course, he was taken out at that time. So we're dealing with somebody who's an authority, somebody with a spiritual connection, somebody very learned, somebody who had a way with words. Very, very interesting. Now, if we look at what's going on now, I think this is very telling. This is what I find amazing. You know, Martin Luther King has been, let's see, it's, what is it, 50, 52? So far, 52, I think, going on 53 years that he's been passed. And you wonder, does his chart is this chart still active? You know, what's going on? So let's take a look at what's going on now as if he was still here. It's a very interesting study. So let me pull that up. And I'm just going to do a bi-wheel here. And I'm just going to pick today as a day to look at his chart. Here we go. Here's today. Okay, so this is his chart, and this is today. And what's interesting is he has Pluto sitting on his sun. Pluto on your sun, as it goes over your sun like this in a conjunction. Conjunctions are always about power, and Pluto is the planet of power and transformation. And while he still is not, while he's not alive in physical form and flesh, what he stood for, his life, what he stood for, civil rights, human rights, right, is getting the power of Pluto behind it. And so it's as if his dream is becoming more of a reality than before. His understanding of how things were is coming out to a broader audience. His words still linger in our hearts, and if you listen to them again, you'll get chills up and down your spine, because he's speaking from a place of connectedness, right? So we have Pluto sitting on his sun, which if he was still alive, we could say, oh, he's moving into even a greater level of power, right? And who's to say? He's very busy. If you listen to any of the psychics, we were actually in the middle of class the other day. We were talking, I don't know if we were talking about him or not, but one of the students brought him up, said, oh, he's here. And I'm like, okay, let's look at his chart. So he's around, and certainly with Warnock and even Warnock and the young guy with the dark hair, or Orpho, no, or you know what I'm talking about, I'm sorry. Vote your Orphoff. Anyway, him. We're both, one was the pastor for John Lewis, and one, I think, worked with John Lewis, or was a lawyer for John Lewis, or did something with John, but both were connected with John Lewis. And of course, John Lewis was connected to Martin Luther King. They were all together at that time. And so we can see that even though he's not coming into power, people connected to him, like actually, like as connected as you can be, but not being related, kind of, are shifting the power dynamic in a place like the Senate, you know. So we can see the influence. We have Jupiter now moving closer to his Mercury. He will be having Jupiter on his Mercury, so we will be listening to his words. You'll hear them more and more. Eventually, Saturn will come, and perhaps this COVID relief package is there for the COVID aid, but to also help those people who haven't gotten much help. And so it can hopefully, it's very optimistic. We'll see how far we can get with it. Hopefully we can. It's just to sort of raise people up, which of course is what Martin Luther King wanted. And we can see that his words are actually creating a foundation for the way we want to structure our society. We just had Jupiter and Saturn make a conjunction. And while it was not close to Mercury, it was 10 degrees away, we still have that sort of energy of Aquarius and making it real. And he's a very important part of that for us in our culture and our history. Very, very important figure. We can also see that he is having Neptune go over his moon. Neptune can uncover things that we didn't know before. So we may be seeing that. We have Chiron on his Uranus. Chiron is on his Uranus. And I believe when he passed, Chiron was in Aries. But I think it was approaching his Uranus at the time. And then we can see that right now we have this Saturn Uranus conjunction that's going to be exact on the inauguration, sitting right on his Chiron in Taurus. Chiron in Taurus is a wound around actually having your essential needs met. Perhaps you didn't. It's a wound around self-worth and self-esteem. And it's a wound around poverty, really. It can be poverty, lack of basic needs. And so he knew what that felt like. He knew what that felt like. And he knew what it felt like, not just on a personal level, but with Jupiter here conjunct in the 12th house, he could feel the suffering of the people, whether they were Black or whether they were poor or whether they were Vietnamese or anyone who was suffering because of man's inhumanity to man and man's greed and willingness to hurt poor people and brown people and people far away so that they could live a certain quality of life that they weren't sharing with everybody. So it's it's very much in his chart. Right now, the north node of the moon, the transiting node, is going over his Mars. His Mars in Gemini in that second house. Interesting, his Mars is conjunct the Mars of the United States. It's a very, very deeply connected chart to the United States. In a way, kind of like Trump's is, but not exactly, because it's a different energy, but you certainly can see a fatedness to Trump's chart when you put it up with the United States chart. You'll see that with Joe Biden as well. But what I found amazing, and I think I will share this with you, I wasn't going to, but I just wanted to point something out about MLK and Joe Biden. And I did actually I looked at Joe Biden, I looked at Bernie Sanders, I looked at Barack Obama, I looked at Kamala Harris and Martin Luther King. Of course, he would have had an influence on them. I mean, he had an influence on me, goodness sakes. But okay. Oh shoot, sorry. I'm having a moment. I don't want to call it a senior moment. It's just a moment. It's like the end of the day, and I'm a little tired. Okay, so there's Joe, and Uncle Joe. Here we go. Martin Luther King. Okay. So I'm going to just swap this out. Or do I want to swap this out? No, I'm going to go the other way. So this is Joe Biden, and this is Martin Luther King's chart over his chart. And there's a couple of very interesting connections. First of all, Joe Biden's Venus and his Sun and his Venus are conjunct the South Node of Martin Luther King. And so energetically, soul-wise, there is a connection there, right? There's a connection. Joe Biden's moon in Taurus in the 5th house. Martin Luther King's Jupiter is there. So this is a benefic energy. This is a benefic energy to Joe. Of course, Joe's, Martin Luther's North Node is opposite Joe Biden's Sun and Venus, because, of course, Joe Biden's Sun and Venus is conjunct the South Node. Their series right here is almost exactly the same. We have 2005 and 2001. So this is compassionate. This is understanding of the suffering of others. There is simpatico here. And of course, Martin Luther King's moon at 20 degrees of Pisces is also conjunct his series. Martin Luther King's Mercury is conjunct his Pallas Athena, the goddess of social justice, and Vesta, what he devotes himself to, in Aquarius. So he devotes himself to the Senate. Aquarius, the 11th house, is the Senate and the Congress. But he devotes himself to humanitarian ideals. And I think his speeches, Martin Luther's speeches, inspired Joe Biden to go in that direction, quite frankly. Now, I don't really know, because I've never really read anything about Joe Biden, like a book. Usually they come out with a book. You want to be president, you write a book, and then you tell everybody who inspired you. But I bet dollars to donuts, he was very much inspired by Martin Luther King. Very, very interesting. And I just want to, it's also the same. Bernie also is very connected to MLK, which we can always look at another time. But what's interesting about Martin Luther King is that, and this is sort of skipping ahead to his numbers, his soul vibration is a 27-9 vibration. It's the Ace of Wands, found in Kether, the Ace of Fire, the Ace of Spirit. And when you have a 27-9 soul, you will have direct connection to spirit, and you can be very inspiring and very creative, very fiery. And both Barack Obama and Kamala Harris have a 27-9 soul vibration. And it's interesting because, of course, Barack was the first Black man to become president of the United States. And Kamala is the first Black woman to become vice president, or the first woman, and certainly the first Black woman, and certainly the first Asian woman to be that high up in the rankings. But they share soul. They share soul, and on some level, I believe that the aspiration of understanding and the aspiration of connection to something greater than yourself, to be inspired and to rise up, is in and be pioneers to a certain extent. It's an ace. It's an ace. So it starts with the idea or the intuition. The first element is fire. It's spirit, and then we have water. And then from fire and water, we get air and earth. So that Ace of Wands, I think, is very significant. And you can see if you have that vibration as a soul vibration, you might feel a kinship to the people I mentioned. My husband has that vibration, 27/9 soul, and he is one of the most sensitive and loving people that I know. So it's a very special vibration, and they all share it. But we can go over that when I get to his numbers, which I am gonna do in a separate video. I did promise this all together, but it is almost 11 o'clock here, and I think um, I think I got to everything I wanted to get to. But I think that one of the important things to understand is that, just because you're no longer here, you're not your chart is still part of the um, the harmony of the spheres, I guess, or the music of the spheres. And there are these special souls that come in to um, uplift humanity, and he was one of those souls. And there are those souls still around, and they will continue to lift up humanity no matter what the challenge. He lit his light. Um, he has a lot of very interesting connections to the United States, Martin Luther King. And I think the next one I'll point those out numerologically and then also astrologically. So keep posted. That will be MLK Part 2. This is MLK Part 1. Happy birthday, Martin Luther King Jr. The world is a better place because of you. Thank you. And for all of those out there who enjoy this kind of thing, like and subscribe. If you would like a reading yourself, you can contact me. I'll put the contact information below. You can just email me. I do have a website. I'll put that information below, but fair warning, it's not the best website. So sometimes the best way to get a hold of me is just to email me. So, all right, guys, much love. Have a great evening. Namaste. Get some rest, guys. Take care.